Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars. Today, my guest is a friend of the show as he has shared with us what Star Wars means to him and how love for the franchise led him from appearances on Rosie O'Donnell to being the creator and owner of the intergalactic geek bar SCUM and Villainy, as well as the producer for Kevin Smith's Fatman Beyond podcast. But today on this very special day of May the 4th be with you, he's going to share with us his Jar Jar theory. Let's welcome back with a warm, why hello there, to JC Reifenberg.
Misa back.
Welcome back. I guess my very first question, I should have asked you beforehand, what do you call this your Jar Jar theory? Is there a name you have for this?
I don't really, I guess. Yeah, I'll call it my Jar Jar theory, I guess. It's it is the way, it's what I bring up when I want to get the conversation moving.
Yeah.
And I want to get people to like invest heavily in what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you've got me intrigued. I can't wait to hear this theory. What is it? Let's hear.
All right. So at the risk of burying the lead in a very long thing, this is where I'll start off with, and this is what I mentioned to you last time, is that there is a way of looking at Star Wars where Jar Jar Binks is the best character in Star Wars, depending on what you're looking.
Now, is that the most pivotal, the most heroic, or just the best character?
I say best because what I value in Star Wars, and I think we talked about this, is like everybody who watches Star Wars, and Dave Filoni talked a little bit about this too. They're like, I'm Darth Vader, or I'm Boba Fett because I'm the mysterious badass. Or I'm Han Solo because I shoot first, or whatever. You're like, guys, no, you're all Luke Skywalker. Because guess what? Like, Han Solo was the captain of the football team, and Darth Vader was the kid who's in jail now. Like, if you're here and you're watching Star Wars and you're talking about Star Wars, and you're talking about who you are in Star Wars, guess what? You're Luke Skywalker. You are. You are. That's it. So when I say best, what I mean is that's the way that I look at Star Wars. And I think that it is about being true to yourself, right?
Yep.
So best in Star Wars means the character who is most true to themselves. And I think that's Jar Jar. Out of everybody in the show, all the shows, all the stuff that's come out after the prequels, that is Jar Jar. I deep dove into like the history of the Gungans through like video games that were released in like 1999 and stuff. So I've done my research. It's still a theory though. It's a hypothesis. And if you're willing to think open-mindedly and you listen to what I have to say, not just Jar Jar sucks and you built a brick wall, I've changed some minds.
I think it's great that you're sharing this because one of the things I want with this show is hearing different opinions and the passion behind them. So this is going to be fantastic.
So here's the thing. And we talked about this for 3 hours before. But where I come from as a Star Wars fan is I am a post Return of the Jedi release, pre anything else Star Wars fan. So I was a huge Star Wars fan when there was only a little bit of Star Wars. And when you fell in love with Star Wars at that time, also this is pre-internet, so there's no memes. So again, like when I look at people and they love Han Solo or they love Boba Fett or they love Darth Vader. And then you have like the next level of fans who are like, yeah, but like Wedge Antilles, Admiral Akbar, how dare they kill him so unceremoniously in Last Jedi? And I was like, yeah, I agree. I agree. Like I did that. I had that same progression when I was like 10 in 1991 when there was no other Star Wars, right? And for me, loving Boba Fett or loving Darth Vader or memeing Admiral Akbar and saying it's a trap, again, like to me, it's like you see that on Family Guy now, right?
Yes.
It doesn't speak to the depth with which you have invested yourself into this series. It's like, who's your favorite baseball team? I love the Yankees. You're from Nebraska. Yeah, I love the Yankees. Like, of course you fucking love the Yankees. They've won 28 World Series or whatever it is at this point, and they've had the most iconic players of all time and the best marketing, and it's like pervasive, right? So it's like when you say when I hear I love Boba Fett, he's the best character, I'm like, Boba Fett has like 8 seconds of screen time. He's not the best character. You're a Yankees fan. Which is fine. It's totally fine. But to me, it doesn't speak to the depth of like, I love the Kansas City Royals. Well, why? Yeah. And when somebody has to explain why they love the Kansas City Royals versus why they love the Yankees or the Red Sox, it's a different type of fan, right? It's hard to be like, I have less than everybody else, but what is it about this team that draws me to it? And it's not that they've won, and it's not that they had Babe Ruth, right? There's something more there.
Well, is it kind of like I'm so invested in this team that I look beyond all the negative and accept them for who they are? Is that a little bit?
Yes. And you find the root of what you actually love about baseball.
Yes.
In rooting for the team that isn't good, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a retroactive way of like me explaining how I came to Jar Jar Binks using a metaphor. But it is, 10-ish, 15 years ago, it was like the explosion of the meme. And I was just like, I'm so tired of people crapping on the prequels. And I'm so fetishizing of like certain Star Wars characters where I was like, yeah, like, again, it just seems so surface level.
Yeah.
And so I literally was just like, wanted to dive into like, I was 18 when Phantom Menace came out, and I didn't love Jar Jar, right? I didn't love I loved the movies, but I didn't love the movies the way that I loved the other movies. But those, like the prequel movies were like my movie theater Star Wars, right?
Yes.
Like I had seen the special editions when they came out, but it wasn't like I had seen those on VHS edited for television for years. So it wasn't like the same type of thing as like new Star Wars that I'm going to be the one who experiences, and I'm going to be the one to tell the stories of what it was like on opening day, the way that I had heard them from people who were older than me.
I mean, going back to your baseball metaphor, this is like going to, like listening to your favorite team on the radio for years and years and years, and finally going to a live game.
Yeah, it's just a different experience. Even though you know all the players and you know how it's kind of going to go, and you know that everything, but it's just a different experience. Like hearing the crack of the bat and actually hearing the sound waves hit your ear and not have them hit a microphone and then get condensed for over the air and then reproduce from your car speakers, right? It's like, it's different being there.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about the prequels, and I love them because of that's what they were for me, but those movies take a little bit more work than the original trilogy. And people are going to yell at me for this, but like they're a little bit more complex. They're not as, here's the line, people who wear white are good, people who wear black are bad, and they fight, and the good guys win. The prequels are like more nuanced, which is why you don't see a lot of original trilogy memes. You see a lot of prequel trilogy memes. There's so much in there that they just take more work to understand what George was trying to do. And
yes, you have to go beyond the surface of Poodoo and dive just a little deeper and really look at it, as opposed to, no, I am your father. And it's just a statement that you know what it is.
Yeah. And it's, like people in the prequels who have lightsabers aren't good, and people who wear black aren't bad. Like the good guy in the prequels are like, who? I don't know. Is it like, you could make an argument that it's Count Dooku, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Like the Separatists are kind of the beginning of the rebellion, but like he's with the bad guy. So like there is no line in the prequels. Now, part of what makes them more work is that they're clunky. They're not as,
dry, punchy.
Well, it's a 60-year-old dad making a movie, not a 28-year-old hungry, lay it all on the line young filmmaker. And so they're not, the precision with which they are executed is not the same as the original trilogy. They're not as tight. They're allowed to go off on these kind of flight of fancies. You see that a lot with like James Cameron now, right? Where he's just like, whatever, if you don't like it, close your eyes for the 9 minutes that we're just underwater with Avatar. So like, I wanted to get into the prequels and why they're great and why it just added 80% of what you know about Star Wars to Star Wars that you attribute to other Star Wars. But it all came from there. And so I really was kind of looking for my Kansas City Royals. I was really kind of looking for like, what's the next thing in Star Wars that I'm willing to go to the mat for in a way that helps define my fandom to myself and also to the world outside of myself, as like, I am such a big Star Wars fan that this, right? And we had talked about how I was on Rosie O'Donnell and TRL, and I've had like a lot of privilege as a Star Wars fan. So I was kind of searching for my identity next, rather than being like the guy who was on TRL in 2004. And it led me to Jar Jar Binks, which is, if you watch episode 1, he's no more annoying than C-3PO was in episode 4. He's just not. Yeah. And you watch Star Wars through you see your whole life through a pinhole, right? And this is like, I'll explain this a lot to, like, for example, I worked at Blockbuster Video. And when I worked at Blockbuster Video, I was a low-level employee. And I would look at the management and I would look at the GMs and I'd be like, why am I the one who has to vacuum the floor and do all the labor? All they do is sit behind a desk and don't do anything. And I'm doing all the work, right? But now, as somebody who has employees, I understand that when I was an employee, I see things through my pinhole, right? Yeah. I don't understand like the risk management. I don't understand the fact that that manager is responsible for 15 people's livelihoods, not just their own. As an employee, I'm only worried about myself, right?
And you're not seeing the work going on behind the desk.
Right. You only see what you see. The same way that everybody views the whole world through their own pinhole. If you stop looking at Jar Jar and the prequels through your pinhole and you kind of step outside and you stop looking through the original trilogy as the 6-year-old boy you were or girl you were when you saw it, C-3PO is so bad in A New Hope. And he's not heroic like he is, in a silly way like he is in Return of the Jedi. But you can't separate what C-3PO becomes from what he was on May 25th, 1977. They're the same. They're the same. And honestly, R2-D2 isn't that cool in that movie either. Jar Jar says, how rude. Michelle Tanner from Full House says, how rude.
How rude.
Well, C-3PO said it in 1980 when he was on Cloud City, kids. So C-3PO predates Full House, and Jar Jar, maybe the guy who wrote Jar Jar is actually referencing C-3PO and not Michelle Tanner.
Yeah.
But you're looking at the world through your prism, and that's what you see, right? And
because essentially, to you, the Full House came first. I mean, not to you, but the general person watching the Phantom Menace, they're thinking, how rude is such a huge thing from Full House and kind of a throwaway line from C-3PO and Cloud City that all they can think about is Michelle Tanner, as opposed to what the actual source is.
Correct. And is it George Lucas's responsibility as a filmmaker to understand that? Like, well, you had kids and they must have watched Full House, and you live in San Francisco and Full House takes place in San Francisco, so you knew. That's a big assumption.
That's
a big assumption, knowing that this guy wrote that joke in 1980 about something totally different. So I wanted to look at Jar Jar objectively. I wanted to remove all the rest of it and be like, why?
Yes.
Why is this character, why did this character in those movies, but particularly this character, cause Trey Parker and Matt Stone to write an episode of their cartoon where George Lucas raped their childhood? Like, why? You people, you're holding on to something so tight and you're looking at it in just such a certain way, and so many people, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this, I watched it a lot. The more I watched it kind of outside myself, the less annoying Jar Jar became. And the less annoying Jar Jar became, you start to ask questions instead of point fingers. And at that point also, I was like, Star Wars conventions were picking up. Yeah. And I was like, man, there's so many stormtroopers. There's so many this. There's so many that. There's so many Boba Fett's. How awesome would it be to build the most realistic Jar Jar Binks costume that the world had ever seen? Because there wasn't, like, he's a CG character, so that costume doesn't actually exist. And so I was like...
And not a lot of people were, like, on the Jar Jar bandwagon.
No.
You know, people want to cosplay Boba Fett, Darth Vader, Han Solo.
Yeah, because they're badass, right? They're cool. Yeah. They wear black and have a cape and
a gun.
And a gun and all this lore of Boba Fett doing all these things. And I'm like, but everybody's seen that. What if I could build Jar Jar? Like, I was like, I'll wear like VR goggles and the eyes will be like two little GoPro cameras. And I'll have like a CO2 trigger to have the tongue stick out. And we'll do like mechanics so that when I move my mouth, his lips can curl back and he can smile and the mouth will move. And I'll get like some like moon shoes so I can bounce. And we'll do the ears out of like latex so they flop the right way. Like, I'm starting to plan this whole thing out because I'm like, I want to be the guy that everybody wants to take photos of at Star Wars Celebration. Like, I want to wow the audience with this.
And what year is this?
Oh gosh, probably 2012, 13.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the genesis of this idea that I had to make a documentary about Jar Jar Binks. I was like, I will document myself building this costume. But the more which I never did, but the more I thought about it and the more I watched and read about Jar Jar and Gungan history, I was like it opened my mind more. And so I'm like, it would be interesting to talk to people about why they hate Jar Jar so much. People of all ages.
Yeah, I like it.
In 2023, like, people don't hate Jar Jar like the way that they used to. Like, it's a little like it's uncool. It's like a very like Gen X thing or a millennial thing to hate Jar Jar, you know? Like, it's not hip anymore. But back then it was not. It was like pariah status. I told my friend I was going to do this podcast today, and she's like, "Oh, have fun going to publicly ruin your reputation." Right? But she's 40.
It's surprising to me people still hold on to that hate. It's a little bit like bullying in that you're just picking on the almost the weakest one in the yard.
So so yes, we will come into that.
Cinema Craptaculous is your podcast destination for all things movies, good and bad, streaming series, good and bad, and pop culture, good, bad, and the ugly. You get a totally different show every week, such as People Also Watched with Adam, Dave, and Tara. They're three industry insiders who always find the hilarity in the big-budget feature and the lesser-known feature you may have missed. There is, of course, the Expanded Universe. This is your place to geek out. John, Doc, and S'more are your geek experts to talk about what's going on in the world of streaming series, movies, superheroes, pretty much any showbiz geek topic, they're going to talk about it. And, of course, there's the show that started it all, Cinema Craptaculous, with Stephanie, John, and Dave. You don't even need to have seen the movies these guys talk about to have a good time. So what are you waiting for? Go and subscribe to Cinema Craptaculous wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
So I wanted to do kind of like a traditional documentary where we interview people about Jar Jar and why they don't like him and kind of poke at that. And intercut it with me, this Jar Jar superfan, making this insane costume. And then that grew a little bit in that this was, pushing into like 2000, I don't know. My idea was that we shoot a scripted part to the documentary as well, where it's once my Jar Jar costume is done, I am lying on a therapist's couch and it's kind of how we narrate the documentary, where Jar Jar is talking to a therapist who you never see about what it has been like to be this pariah for the last 15 years, and how with the release of episode 7, it might be time for him to kind of come out of hiding and reveal himself to the world again, because he does have something to offer. And then as I started putting this all together in my head, I was like, a lot of compassion for people, human compassion, comes from understanding where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you don't understand where somebody comes from and they're not the main character, it's harder to show compassion for that person in real life, but also in a movie.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what if I were to write a prequel to The Phantom Menace that's all about Jar Jar, and it's like a 22-minute cartoon, and we do it animated because it's the only way you can do it. And so you've got this documentary that I've built in my head that is me building a Jar Jar costume, Jar Jar, the character, talking to a psychiatrist about what it's been like to be Jar Jar. Interviews of real people, like a real documentary that is cut into it. And then this cartoon that will get broken up into like 4 6-minute sections throughout the documentary. And I was like, this is a way to make this thing interesting and move rather than just talking heads, but also a way to, when you make a documentary, you want people to leave with something. You don't want to just preach to them. You want them to leave with something. You want them to think. And so my hypothesis for doing this whole thing, the crux of the whole thing, was that when you talk to people who were kids when the prequels came out, not one of them hated Jar Jar. Not one of them sat in the movie theater and watched that character and hated it. When you talk to people my age, everybody hated it. And so I'm trying to figure out why this is the case. And my hypothesis was that it's a response from school and schoolyard bullying, in that when you go to school, and I'm dealing with this right now, like my daughter is 2.5 and we're talking about sending her to preschool, and she's just the perfect little kid. She doesn't talk back. She does everything perfectly. Like, she is just the sweetest little kid. And I know the moment we send her to school, she's going to start drawing on walls and getting into stuff that she's never gotten into.
It's like she takes on the attributes of other kids. Not that those kids are particularly bad either, probably. It's just you get a bunch of kids in a room.
Right. And it's learned behavior, right?
Yeah.
Like she's an only child, but like there's another 2.5-year-old who has a 4-year-old who's been going to school, who learned crappy traits, who then that other 2.5-year-old learns from their older brother, who then teaches it to my daughter. So bring that to all of us and our younger siblings. And our younger siblings come back from watching The Phantom Menace, and they like Jar Jar. He's funny. He is themselves up on screen.
Yes.
And the older brother, and I'm just going to keep using brother, but I know older sisters like Star Wars and stuff. I'm just going to say it because that's me and my gender. I don't want to cause a problem. Comes home and sees the younger sibling playing with a Jar Jar toy or asking mom for a Jar Jar toy at the store. And what do they say? Jar Jar sucks. You're an idiot. They tease you, right? So then you go to school, and on the playground, you tease your friends for liking Jar Jar. Only little kids like Jar Jar. Jar Jar sucks. Stepping in poop isn't funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be funny if Monty Python did it, but not in Star Wars, right? So my theory is that when you go to school, you are like kind of one of three classes of kids. You are the cool kids, you are the middle kids, or you are the loser kids. And if you are the loser kids, the only thing that you want to do is either be left alone or get to be a middle kid. The middle kids are okay being in the middle, but they don't want to get downgraded to be in the loser kids. So what happens? The cool kids on the playground tease the loser kids. And if the middle kids don't join in and tease the loser kids with the cool kids then tease the middle kids and they get pushed down to be a loser kid. And that's just the way it is. Like, I'm not talking about Star Wars. I'm not talking about Jar Jar. I'm talking about, like, as somebody who has been the loser kid, as somebody who has been the middle kid, and as somebody who's flirted with being the cool kid, that's just the way it is. And
it's kind of social dynamics.
It's social dynamics, right? And so the thing that you are taught is you are either the person who gets teased or you are the person who teases. And you have to choose one of those things.
And you don't want to let other people choose it for you.
Correct. And the kids who get teased are the kids who don't know what this word means. They don't know what the word, they don't know what a condom is when they're 7 years old, right? So you get teased about that. They don't know what this kind of like offhand word means. They don't know what that means, right? They're a little bit more naive. They're a little bit more childish. They're a little bit more innocent. They're a little bit less afraid to be honest about the fact that they don't know what a condom is, because they don't quite understand that by not knowing what a condom is, they're opening themselves up to getting crapped on by everybody else. So they do it. So they say, no, I don't know what it is. Who cares? And then everybody gangs up on them, right?
Correct.
So what you are taught is that if you are the same person at home with your parents, the sweet little kid, and then you go out into the world and you hold on to that innocence and you hold on to that thing that keeps you, and you don't shield it from the world. You don't protect yourself. You get teased and you're a problem and you're not cool. You don't get invited to the parties. That's a learned behavior.
And one could also argue this is a learned behavior that carries over to social media as well.
It carries over everywhere. It's everywhere. Now let's look at that in terms of Jar Jar and who he is in Star Wars. Not our perception of him, but who he is in Star Wars. In Star Wars, when you meet Jar Jar, what do we know? He's been banished for being clumsy.
Yep.
He is looked at by Obi-Wan Kenobi like, really?
Yeah, as inferior.
Jar Jar, why were you banished? Oh, I'm clumsy. What does that mean? Jar Jar, why don't people like you? I just am who I am. Oh, what does that sound like? What does that sound like? That sounds like, hey kid, hey Mark, do you know what a condom is? No, I don't. He doesn't. Sam, Frank, Mark doesn't know what a condom is. What a baby. That's what it is. And in Star Wars, you watch Obi-Wan, the little brother, right, to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Look at Jar Jar weird, and then look at Qui-Gon and be like, really? Right? Jar Jar is who he is. He doesn't wear the mask, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Jar Jar, can you help us? Even though we just shat on you, can you help us? Of course. Of course. Let's go to my hometown where I'm teased, where I'm this, where I'm this, where I'm this, where everybody hates me. But I'm willing to help you because you guys need help. Yeah. You're the loser kid on the playground who gets teased, Jar Jar. You're too nice for your own good. And here's the thing.
Exactly, yes.
Throughout the entire movie, Jar Jar never stops being who he is. He never stops telling people who he is. He never stops not being who he is. And he's the one who unites the Gungans and Naboo that ultimately helps win. He is true to who he is throughout the entire show. Now, Luke Skywalker was that character in A New Hope. Why is Jar Jar better than Luke, right? Because that's how we started this podcast. Well, Luke is influenced by Han Solo, right? Han Solo's the big brother. Luke's the little loser. Luke wants to kiss his sister and is worried about Han and gets jealous of Han, and Han teases him and he reacts to it, and he puts on the cool kid mask at this point and that point, and he has to be told to turn off his targeting computer. He has to be told what to do. And look, Luke is my favorite character, so I'm not crapping on Luke. It's part of the hero's journey. But if Star Wars is about being true to yourself and still saving the day, Jar Jar, from the moment you meet him until the moment he is hated so badly that they don't put him in episode 2 and 3, really.
Yeah.
He is the guy who is who he is. No matter if he's in the company of royalty or Jedi or people who have teased him before or any of it. He is who he is. He is an unspoiled by society character. That's scary. That's scary to watch. As a kid, that's scary to watch. As an 18-year-old watching that movie, I look at that character and I say, well, no, because when I did that, I got teased. When I did that, I got crapped on by everybody. I moved from the middle kid to the loser kid. And now I'm watching on screen somebody do what I did. And I know that's not the right way to navigate society, because I've been taught that if you are that kid, you're going to get ostracized. So I need to tease that guy on screen so I don't get teased. And I need to tell my younger kids and my kids and everybody who will listen, I need to shout it from the AOL message boards that Jar Jar sucks, or else I could end up like Jar Jar. And I've already ended up like Jar Jar. I've fought so hard to be cool since the time I was 6, and I'm 18 now, and I'm not willing to go back. So fuck Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. It starts with jerks my age who saw Jar Jar and saw themselves at 6 years old as Jar Jar and had to let people know I'm not Jar Jar anymore. And it's honestly, if the world was full of Jar Jars, everybody'd probably be happier. Jar Jar's happy. He is who he is. All these people who spend all this time and money to collect action figures I'm surrounded by, and spend millions of dollars a year to go to Disneyland to try to capture a little piece of the magic of what it was like to be a kid. You're just chasing this thing. You're spending adult money to chase this thing that you have consciously or subconsciously, I guess, because it's taught to you from such a young age, you've thrown it away on purpose because you're chasing the wrong thing. Toys don't make you a kid. Being true to yourself is what makes you a kid. Not being afraid of what people are going to say to you because you are who you are is what makes you a kid. And that's what Jar Jar Binks represents. That's what he stands for. That's what he is in those movies that we all missed, that the kids got, that we then told the kids that they were stupid for understanding. Like, that's what it is.
There's so much here because I love how this all leads to what we all wanted when we saw the prequels, which was to feel like a kid again. And the one thing that represents the openness of a kid, the honesty of a child, the, I'm going to say naivety.
Hey, I've tried to say that 4 times and I haven't been able to get it out of my mouth.
It is, and that is who Jar Jar represents, is kind of mind-boggling because you're right. He is purity. He's almost like he's a diametric opposite to what's going on in those movies, which is shades of gray, lots of, well, the Jedi aren't that great. You know, they're fallible. They're not...
Yeah, they're full of hubris.
And then you have the Emperor who's also manipulating everything behind the scenes in this one kind of soul, bright light, just going, look, let's just try to get along.
Hey, how do we beat the bad guys? Well, what if we team up? What if we're friends?
Yes.
Oh, fuck you, kid. No, man, that's what this is all about. It's like every problem we have today is because it's like battle of the cool kids. Or it's like, no, we're all just like stop trying to be cool and did what was best. Like, it'd be like communication would be better. Like, it's the whole point of the movie, and nobody got it. It's so, by the way, it's so far ahead of its time. Also, like politically and everything, it's pretty crazy.
But it's a precursor to everything. Like in 1999, it's a precursor to everything that's happened from 2000 to 2023.
Hey, what does the Patriot Act sound a lot like? Granting emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine?
Yes.
When did the Patriot Act get enacted?
2002?
Yeah. What had already been written and released before the Patriot Act? Oh, episode 2. Okay. All right. Cool. That's cool. Like, but that's boring. That stuff's boring. Yeah, right. All right. So that's the theory that I'm going to dive into with this documentary. But in order to change people's minds, what do? You have to reframe the way that you look at the character. And the way that I wanted to do that was to make this cartoon. And I'll outline the plot of the cartoon. In that, the cartoon starts, Captain Tarples is head of the Oda Gunga Special Forces unit. And the show opens with a very young Jar Jar Binks passing test after test with flying colors. Think about like almost like the opening of, if anybody remembers it, Point Break, where Keanu Reeves is in the rain and he's like rolling and tumbling and marksmaning all these targets and shooting the bad guy but missing the hostage. Like, you have this very cool scene of a Gungan doing acrobatics and completing every skill challenge that they have. And at the end, Captain Tarples is like, oh, Jar Jar, my greatest student of all time. You will have your pick of the job you want in the Oda Gunga CIA. Like, number one. And Jar Jar talks, but he talks like this. You know, Misa, thank you, Captain Tarples. So, like, his voice isn't the same. So immediately, people are like, what's the deal with his voice? Like, is this Jar Jar? But, like, you know it's Jar Jar.
Does he get hit on the head?
So as he is getting accolades in the locker room from all the fellow Gungans of like, oh my God, this is the Michael Jordan of Gungans. He gets a phone call and the supervisor comes out and is like, come here, Jar Jar, like, you need to take this call. And he picks it up and it is a call from his boss's or his wife's boss. And Jar Jar has known this woman since they were like tadpoles. They've grown up together. They are soulmates. And it is revealed that she was killed during an expedition through the planet core.
Oh.
And he is decimated. He's decimated. He's immediately just lets the phone drop, fade to black, fade up 5 years later, right? Now, Why the planet core? Why marine biologist? Well, she's trying to help harness the energy of the planet core to provide sustainable energy for Naboo. make Naboo less reliant on outside trade.
Yes.
So we see Jar Jar now, and he's living on top of the swamp in a little hovel that we like push in through it. And he is the worst looking thing you've ever seen. Like, think like he's just sucks on poison toads all day to self-medicate.
Yep.
Until he dies. He's just waiting to die because the pain of losing the one he was meant to be with, like, he doesn't see any reason to go on. Knock on the door. Who is it? His voice has changed because he spent 5 years above the water doing drugs.
Yep.
Essentially. It's Captain Tarples. He explains to Jar Jar that a prominent child of one of the head families of Naboo has been kidnapped. Think like Lindbergh baby. And the media is blaming the Gungans on it. And it is highly sensitive, and they can't trust anybody in the police force. And now Tarples is head of the Oda Gunga police force. He needs Jar Jar to come back with him and solve this crime. Jar Jar reluctantly agrees because he still has an affinity for Tarples. You now have a buddy cop movie of Jar Jar and Captain Tarples moving through Gungan society and Naboo society as investigators, trying to figure out who kidnapped this kid. And throughout the course of their adventure against bad guys, you know, he crashes the Boss Nass's hay blibber, and he floods the Oda Gunga City Zoo, and all the things that you hear Jar Jar talk about later on in these movies. You watch him do it. But what does it do? Well, it reframes the way you think about Jar Jar. His voice isn't annoying. His voice is tragic.
Yes.
He's not clumsy. He's a hero. He's doing these things for a higher purpose, right? So ultimately, Tarples and Jar Jar, through these adventures, find the baby and return the baby to the Naboo. But chaos has ensued, right?
Yeah.
And
he's still kind of a disgrace to Gungan society. Somebody
needs to take the fall.
Ah.
And Jar Jar looks at Boss Nass and looks at Captain Tarples and says, I'm waiting to die anyway. I'm going to go back above the swamp and do what I'm going to do. Blame me. It's like Batman at the end of Dark Knight, right? Blame me. I'm the bad guy. Everybody thinks I'm a bad guy anyway. Like, nobody's seen or heard from me. I can be the bad guy easily. You guys keep doing what you're doing. And he goes up to the top of the swamp and waits in the swamp another 5 or 6 years until the Trade Federation comes and he bumps into Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. They go down. Boss Nass, you were banished, Jar Jar. What are you doing here, right? Because if it comes out that we did this thing, society will lose all trust in everything. What are you doing here? You're going through the planet core. The planet core, that's where my wife died. What are you doing to me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you tie all of the stuff you hate about Jar Jar back to this story. And it turns out the wife was killed. Why? Well, she's trying to engineer the Naboo to not be so reliant on
Nemodian
trade. Well, and why was the baby kidnapped? Well, because Palpatine did it. And you find out during the credits scroll that Palpatine did it to start a race war between the Gungans and the Naboo, because it would be easier to take over the planet if those two sides weren't getting along.
United.
So then when Jar Jar unites the Naboo with the Gungans at the end of the movie, you're finishing his arc in that he kind of foiled Palpatine in the prequel, and now he's actually done it. And the thing that Palpatine was trying to avoid is what ultimately causes Palpatine's skirmish on Naboo to fail.
Yeah.
And you all tie it back into Palpatine's plan. So Jar Jar is a tragic hero. And all you're seeing is this little snippet of the end of his journey. So all the stuff you hate about him, all of a sudden you have to look at him and go, yeah, I still hate you because your voice is still annoying. But that's kind of like looking at a recovering alcoholic and being like, you're ugly because you've aged too much because you've been drinking too much. Like, now you have to look in the mirror and you realize you're the shitty person. right? You're the one.
You're the bully.
Unfairly judging. Like, it holds a mirror up to yourself. So that was my way in the documentary to help reframe the way that people look at Jar Jar. So they look at him the way that I look at him, which is, this is a guy who is has a backstory you don't know and you don't understand, who is unapologetically himself, who saves the day, who then ultimately, because of peer pressure from the internet, George Lucas wrote into, again, this tragic character who is trying to do the right thing above all else, who bows to peer pressure in the Senate and does something that he's been peer pressured to do, which is like, everybody says this is what you need to do, that ultimately brings down the fall. I mean, he's Shakespearean.
Yeah. He is, I mean, within the world you created, he is a noble hero who's manipulated into going against his own beliefs to essentially usher in the Empire.
Yeah. And because Palpatine tried to manipulate him in my prequel and couldn't do it, he becomes the target in episode 2. And it ties in all into the canon and everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, so play that documentary in your head, right? Oh, the other part that I wanted to do was when Jar Jar on the therapy chair ends his therapy session at the end of the documentary. The therapist spins around and it's Ahmed Best. And Jar Jar's and working through his own issues.
Yes.
Now, think about everything I've said in an hour and 20 minutes. If you watch that and you watch people talk about it and you see those things dramatized, and then you go back and you watch Star Wars Episode 1 and you think about yourself growing up and you think about how you were teased and you think about all of those things. Do you watch Jar Jar Binks and hate on him the same way? You might not like him. You may say, like, this isn't me. This isn't for me. But do you go on the internet and trash somebody? When your kid wants the Jar Jar toy from Galaxy's Edge, are you like, no, get the Wampa one instead? Like, do you do that now or not? Because if you don't, then I have accomplished what I want to accomplish as a Star Wars fan now.
Yeah, which is, I've been talking about this with a lot of people about what balance means and what balance to the Force mean. And it's come down that it's not a level between good and bad, but an integration and a purity, which is what we all start with Jar Jar, that he is innocent, naive, open, and that is kind of the purest sense of the Force as well.
I mean, here's the other thing. Like, that's not Star Wars. That's not, Okay, fine. Like, do you like Frodo? That's Frodo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Frodo. Why can Frodo take the ring to Mordor without being corrupted? And Boromir is corrupted just looking at it around Frodo's neck, right? Why does that happen? Well, because he's true of heart. Why could Bilbo have the ring for all those years? Because hobbits are true of heart. Hobbits are Jar Jar. So if you watch Lord of the Rings and you're like, I love Frodo. Frodo lives, right? All right, then keep your secrets, meme. Like, hey, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Like, you're a hypocrite. Or you're just not open enough to see that you're a hypocrite, right? Because, like, Elijah Wood is cute and you're 16 and Jar Jar's not cute, right? Like, I don't know. That's my Jar Jar talk.
That's your Jar Jar talk. I like Jar Jar talk. That'd be a great talk show. Just 2 quick questions for you, or comments, I guess. The first is, what do you think of the Darth Jar Jar theory then?
I hate it. I hate it because
I'm not surprised.
Look, there's 2 ways. There's 2 ways that people can go, right? I looked at Jar Jar trying to find purpose in myself and in the character. And I went in the direction that Star Wars has always asked you to go, which is good triumphs over evil.
Yes.
Then there's other people who looked at Jar Jar and it's like, how do you make Jar Jar cool? Not how do you make him sympathetic? Not how do you understand him? How do you make him cool? How do you make Jar Jar Darth Vader? Because Darth Vader's the coolest. Jar Jar's a Sith. Okay. Okay, Yankees fan. Who's your favorite player? Like, it's like the easiest, most wrong direction. Like, you've learned nothing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, did you listen to Yoda at all? Did you listen to Obi-Wan Kenobi when you watched those movies? Did you see the end of Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader is like, "You were right, Luke"? All of that. Did you miss all of that when you were growing up? Oh no, because you watch Star Wars as an adult now. You don't still watch it the way you watched it as a kid. That's how I feel about Darth Jar Jar. I hate it. I mean, it's fun. Look, I'll say this. It's fun. It's funny. It's clever. But it's like low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's like a fart joke in a Judd Apatow movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay. Now I'm getting canceled on the internet for saying that.
No. Well, having this discussion with you, I feel as though one thing I've come to is that the possibility of the hate for Jar Jar is also that, you know, for people our age, watching this movie and seeing Jar Jar up on the screen is a reminder, and his actions and everything he does is a reminder that essentially Star Wars is kids' films, and we spent 20 years amping them up to like match our age. Like, this is a serious kind of sci-fi epic. It's not a kid's film. And then right away, Phantom Menace goes, no, it's a kid's film. It's for, 10, 12, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 5-year-olds. And when that happens, you kind of go, wait a minute, this isn't what I remember, because you're viewing it through your 20-year-old pinhole, not your 10-year-old pinhole.
Yeah, 100%. It's you're C-3PO, but you love 3PO because he was shiny when you were a kid. Yeah. And your kid loves Jar Jar because he's rubbery. It's the same thing, man. It's the same thing.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll die on the Jar Jar hill. And it's interesting, like, I was at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago when Ahmed Best came out and got, like, a 2,000-person standing ovation and stuff. And, like, it's interesting now to see that the kids who grew up with Jar Jar, who are dealing with the political climate that we are, who are dealing with all of this stuff now, are coming around to the idea that, like, Jar Jar doesn't suck. And like, so like 32-year-olds don't think Jar Jar sucks. 42-year-olds are still like living in the dinosaur times and think he sucks. It's like there's it
mirrors the evolution of society in a sense, at least. I don't want to get too political, but in the left-leaning society of acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. And I don't want to be the guy who's like, I've been banging the Jar Jar drum for 15 years. And everybody's finally caught up. But like me, there's one other guy, Brian Young, who's been banging the Jar Jar jump forever. And it's like everybody's caught up. It's like, yeah, he doesn't suck. Yeah. Like, you suck. If you think Jar Jar sucks, like, chances are you suck more than he does. Well, you don't have to like him. I want to say that. You don't have to like him, but he doesn't suck. And there's a difference, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, JC, thank you so much for sharing your Jar Jar theory with me. I wasn't sure what to expect. Like, in the days leading up to this conversation, I was like, is this going to be kind of like a Darth Jar Jar theory? Is this going to be a theory I've heard before? I have not heard this theory before. I really appreciate it. I think it's a really strong theory, and I love the idea of your documentary having these like fiction meets real life interviews to tell the story in 3 different interconnected and interedited. I don't know what that word is.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, it's a great theory. I encourage everyone listening to like really think about it. I'm going to, like, as I edit this episode, I'm going to listen to this over and over again, and after that, I'm going to rewatch Phantom Menace with that in mind and see how I react.
I mean, it's not going to make you love him, but I bet you won't be as annoyed. I bet you will let it go. I bet you will look at it as you know what? Movie's 2 hours. This doesn't need to be for me. The part where Darth Maul is chopping up Qui-Gon Jinn is for me. I can let my kids have this 3 seconds. It doesn't ruin everything else. I'm an adult now. I can make that choice.
It's absolutely true. We all, in some ways, and I guess it's maturity, We all still want to be the cool kid until we reach that maturity, and I'm not going to say age, but maturity of going, yeah, we don't have to ostracize someone to be cool. We can just be cool by being our authentic selves.
Yep. I don't want to be cool at all. Don't.
It's a lot of pressure.
You cannot be cool and yourself.
Yes.
You cannot. I mean, unless you're like maybe Snoop Dogg, right? Like he's cool.
Yeah.
And he's himself. But like normal people cannot. You're like, right? Because to be cool, you have to follow trends. And if you're following trends, you're not being yourself.
Again, thank you so much, JC. Happy May the 4th to you.
Yes.
And I look forward to our next chat, man.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
So that's JC's Jar Jar theory. And it's so much bigger than a theory. It's a full documentary. It's a prequel to the prequel, and it's a bit of therapy for the much maligned Gungan hero. I have to admit, I regret that there was such a backlash to Jar Jar and the prequels back in the early 2000s, and mostly that I was a part of it. And I guess that's why I feel we shouldn't judge the sequel trilogy, the current shows, the standalone movies, or anything else Star Wars too harshly until some time has passed. Look, Star Wars was about nostalgia. It was a way of George Lucas reliving his childhood with Flash Gordon. And so nostalgia is always going to be a core part of the franchise. Here's the thing about nostalgia. What we don't like today, we're going to be nostalgic for tomorrow. So yeah, I really like this theory. I think it accurately captures why Jar Jar is the best Star Wars character, and I think it would add a lot to have that tragic backstory. I also agree with JC that knowing all of this, you don't have to like Jar Jar, but he's not going to be as annoying when seen in this new light while watching the prequels. What did you think of the Jar Jar theory? Has this changed what you think about the character? Would you like to see JC's documentary come to life? Would you cosplay as Jar Jar now? Let me know at Star Wars Mean to You on Twitter or Instagram. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. You can follow JC on Twitter at Reifenberg and hear him on Fatman Beyond. A lot of the links are in the podcast notes. And if you're liking What Does Star Wars Mean to You, please give it a 5-star rating and review so that other people can discover things like the Jar Jar theory. And remember, the Force will be with you, always. Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners, and that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.